Good morning and good afternoon to all. It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Pramod Kant, an accomplished expert in climate change and forestry. Dr. Kant holds a PhD in climate change and forestry, along with master's degree in both physics and forestry, as well as a postgraduate diploma in wildlife conservation and management. He brings over 3 decades of experience from the Indian Forest Service with extensive expertise in forest administration and management. Dr. Kant played a pivotal role in establishing Tamil Nadu First Tiger Project KMTR, where he also launched a highly successful eco-development program around the buffer zone. Under his leadership, KMTR became India's largest hub for wildlife field research. He has held several senior positions in the Tamil Nadu Forest Department, including serving at the state headquarters and as the managing director of the Tamil Nadu Tea Plantation Corporation, which is India's largest public sector tea plantation company. Dr. Kant has also represented India in international negotiation conferences and playing a background role in climate change discussions. Since retiring from the Indian Forest Service in 2008, Dr. Kant has focused on writing, teaching, and capacity building in climate change adaptation policy. He serves as a visiting faculty member at the Indira Gandhi National Forest Academy in Dehradun and the Institute of Forest Policy and Information at the Chinese Academy of Forestry in Beijing. Dr. Kant has authored over 50 papers on forestry and climate change, co-authored several books, and is a reviewer for the Elsevier Journal of Energy Policy and the Elsevier Journal of Forest Policy and Economics. We are fortunate enough to have Dr. Kant here today to deliver our webinar on policy support for community and smallholder teak plantations in the Greater Mekong Sub-region. Over to you, sir, for the lecture.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sandeep. And first, I must apologize for this technical hitch which has taken so much of time. And I'm grateful that so many of you are still waiting here and giving your time to this event. Thank you very much once again. So I'm grateful for this opportunity to talk to you, to talk to everybody here on this Teaknet webinar. I can see several of my friends here, old friends, Dr. Ma and many others here who have been meeting, and this is one occasion to once again have interaction with you. This is something which I had worked together with Dr. Ma for a long time, and I'm glad that he's also around here to discuss these things with us here. I'll now try to share this document that I have prepared, and I hope it will be possible to I'm sharing it here now. I hope it is visible. Can I get confirmation from?
Yeah, it's visible.
It is visible. So, yes. So this is basically policy support for community and smallholder teak plantations in the Greater Mekong region. We have worked on this project, an ITTU project, and this is an outcome of that project, plus my own work in the teak area of Tamil Nadu state, where I have worked for a long time in India.
Yeah, Dr. Kant, can it be put into the full screen mode?
Okay. Yes.
Is it thank you. That's
right.
Yeah, thank you.
So teak is a royal timber, has always been a royal timber for its unmatched qualities. There is no parallel to this, to its quality, the attractiveness, the strength, the durability, non-corrosive nature, resistance to termite and fungus and chemicals and weathering, etc. Ease of working also. So many things are combined together. And it withstands changes in moisture without shrinking. That's why for Navy, for many years, for the shipbuilding, and even before that, the smaller boats in India and the neighborhood have been using teak boats for a very, very long time. Around the 15th century, the European powers were coming out to colonize the world, and they were building navies with teak. That was the only timber which was considered the best, and the size of navies decided their ranking. How much teak they can get, they would have that size of navies, and that would give them the ultimate power. And this great quality also became a sad thing for the region, because that attracted the colonial companies, the British, the French, the Dutch East India companies, and many other East India companies of European powers of that period. Till the 18th century, the teak forests of Mekong Sub-region were basically under the direct control of the local rulers. Rulers were ruling essentially the agriculture areas, were giving them the revenues and food for the people, and they were free access to the forest resources to the local communities. But for timber, the local rulers would extract a revenue from the trade. As the colonial powers started coming to this area, this was declared by the local rulers as the royal tree of that period, of that area, of the Mekong area, and it required royal permission from the local ruler for felling, transport, and sale. And when they started getting money from it, people started felling more trees. There was more demand. They were felling more trees, and they're taking it out, and the rulers were also getting more money. But this was not to last too long. There was a Treaty of Yandabu between East India Company, the British East India Company, and the Myanmar ruler of that area. And a major teak area of Tena Serif in Burma was ceded to the British East India Company. And then it was examined scientifically, and it was stated by Dr. Nathaniel Wallich, that this was the best teak anywhere in the East India Company's sphere of influence. This invited a huge rush for exploitation of these forests. By 1829, anybody who could pay the ad valorem value could take out as much timber as he wanted. This led to the huge destruction. And the East India Company in India, in Calcutta, asked Dr. Johann Wilhelm Welfer to examine the status of the Tena Serif forest. And he said that the teak inventories had come down very, very low. There was inadequate regeneration. And he said that for exploitation of teak into the future, there should be teak plantation must be raised. So this was the period when for the first time, the planting of teak was thought of, and for fulfilling the need. This was followed in 1852 by the East India Company annexing Bago, or which was called Pegu at that time. And it was said that all the forests at that time, the East India Company decided that all the forests are the property of the government, and no general permission to cut timber therein will be granted to anybody. So it was an attempt to protect this area. After this, the East India Company appointed Dr. John McClelland, and he went to the area, and he felt that the exploitation was going on only in the hills close to the streams, and which was easy of access. So too much young trees were being felled, and these trees that were being felled were along the rivers. Young trees along the rivers were being felled. Now, he wrote a report which has become a very famous report now. It became famous at that time itself. And this report stated, a forest may be regarded as a growing capital, the resources of which are the young trees. And unless these are preserved and guarded to maturity, it is obvious the forest must necessarily degenerate from the nature of an improving capital to that of a sinking fund. So he saw a parallel between a growing capital and the teak forest. And the teak forest, the younger teak forests are the soul of those forests, and they must be preserved and guarded. And if they cannot be guarded, then the capital will become a sinking fund. He said that the government should levy single duty on logs, irrespective of the size, so as to discourage harvesting of small trees, and the management must be taken over by the government, where the merchants would only harvest trees marked by the government. This was a beginning of that change of towards sustainable management. This led to the minutes on the forest policy, which was basically the first forest policy of India, because that time Burma was part of India, and the Burmese teak forest basically this led to the thinking of how the entire forest in the countries were to be managed, in the entire country, India of that time was to be managed. And the principle of state-managed forest conservation, reversing the existing laissez-faire approach to forestry. No, it was to be managed by a department called the Forest Department, and made the teak the property of the state, regulated the trade, and initiated approach to forest management. How much to be harvested, what was to be the amount to be felled in over a year, the beginning of the working plan. He was followed by Dietrich Brandis, the famous Dietrich Brandis. He went to the area, he made an estimate of the annual allowable cut from the Bago forest or Pegu forest of that period, spread over some 8 million hectares. He saw that the current people of that place were practicing shifting cultivation. He felt that they should also benefit from the teak, the high value of teak. And that was the beginning of the Tongia cultivation. He offered them attractive money for planting teak saplings, seedlings, as they leave their land for shifting to another area. They were asked to plant teak trees, and these teak trees became excellent forest later on. So what you find in many of these areas are the teak trees planted on that time, the Tongia cultivation of that period. This is the map of that area, the existing and proposed forest reserves in Pegu and Tenasserim of British Burma of 1861. You see the green portion? They are the reserves. And then the other shaded portions touching those close by are the proposed reserves. So it was basically what was already there that was being expanded into the area which was being brought under the sound scientific management. You can see it spread across the Burma. You can also see the Siam, which is Thailand of today, lower down on the map. This was the boundary of Siam. So north of Siam is Burma. The Siam, as I said, is Thailand. The French colonial influence in Mekong region. So this was the British side. The French also were there, but the French influence was basically less. They did not have much teak in their area of influence. Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. Laos had some teak, but not much. Vietnam and Cambodia, only plantation were initiated by them. But not really much. Very interesting thing happened at that time. There was a treaty called Bowring Treaty of 1855, and the Siam king of that period, the King Mongkut of Siam, after signing the Bowring Treaty and giving the rights to the British, a kind of a right, the British Vice Consul in Chiang Mai, his office became the court. He became the court. So he was given the judicial powers, magisterial powers, powers of the court to decide on trade disputes between British subjects. So the King Mongkut was asked as to why he has given this right to the British. He said the choice was between the crocodile, by which he meant the French in the north, or the whale in the south, in the sea. And he had accepted to work with the British in order to keep the crocodile away. But this basically meant a degree of compromise of his sovereignty, of the sovereignty of Siam, of Thailand, that period. Now, most teak in the world today, this was the background, and most teak in the trade which is there now is coming from plantations. Even in Myanmar, it is basically a plantation raised in that period, which is the period of the 1860s, 1870s, when the Tongia cultivation led to large-scale planting of teak, and also subsequently even by the department. And the only way that the huge demand could be made is from the plantations. That was felt even in those days, that the area under the natural forest is limited. But the large-scale teak plantations by government are limited due to ecological considerations. Because teak, if you plant teak too much, then teak discourages return of native species. And because the governments have to take care of the native species, because the ecological concerns are very high with the government, have to be. That's why the large-scale teak plantations cannot be taken up by the government, because that means you will only have teak and everything else will get removed from there over a period of time, that is. The ground flora gets affected, leading to loss of topsoil, and therefore high-intensity teak planting is not a preferred watershed strategy anywhere in this region. If you see across the Mekong Delta region, also in India, you would find that watershed areas, which is where most of the forests are not the site of plantations of teak, because that leads to loss of topsoil in watersheds, which is not a good thing for watersheds. And large-scale teak plantations on private lands are also not very common, because such lands have very many competing and more profitable options, uses. What is a smallholder? The Loam statement of Smallholder Forest Landscape Restoration Conference, they noted that smallholders are basically less than 1 hectare in many places and maximum to 10 hectares or around that. Could be individuals, could be families, could be clan structures, could be communities. And in the average size of agriculture in our area of concern now, 0.7 hectares in Vietnam, 1.6 in Laos, 2.6 in Cambodia, and 3.1 hectares in Thailand. So this is the average size of holding of agriculture households, land holdings. So maybe it is just a thinking that maybe up to 2 hectares is most part of the region, and up to 2 hectares in Vietnam and up to 5 hectares elsewhere in the region could be considered small holders. But this would go by the local considerations there. This can be taken as the broadly the size of the small holdings. Now, where are the areas which are available for the small holders to really take up teak plantation? One is the shifting cultivation areas. These are there in Myanmar. These are there also in Laos and Cambodia. And in Laos, the shifting cultivation areas are being allotted, shifting cultivators are being allotted forest lands on a household basis. Leads to security of land tenure and inheritable rights, rights which can be transferred to their children. Inheritance rights. The Forest Department provides support services. Teak Improvement Center has been established there for selection and propagation of plus trees and clonal seed orchards. It has led to some success, and in Luang Prabang province of Laos, there are many successful plantations. But this also has a limitation, because it's something which is being now noticed, which is not a very positive thing. Large size community lands are becoming small sized individually owned lands. This has both positive and negative outcome. Because the large sized community lands also, which are under the control of the committee, were also managed in a ecologically more sustainable manner. Whereas the small sized individually owned lands are often not managed ecologically sustainably. So this can be a limitation of such area. In Laos, it is noticed, but this is something that you can expect anywhere in the world. Now, going to Myanmar, natural forests in Myanmar are being harvested in the Myanmar selection system with allowable annual harvest, something which started with Dr. Brandis, and marking by the Forest Department. The growing stock of 10 important trade species has dropped considerably, very severely. In 1990, it was 1340 million cubic meter. In 1990, it has become almost 1/3, slightly more than 1/3 in 560 million cubic meter in 2000. It is still declining. And the cause of this thing is excessive export to China, India, and Thailand. There is a huge demand, and that demand was being fulfilled from Myanmar for a long time, and also to USA and EU as finished products. Massive afforestation work also has been taken up by the Myanmar Forest Department in all these years, and with the expectation that the future teak supplies would only come for these government plantations in Myanmar. In Cambodia, Teaknet attracting foreign investment in large-scale short rotation teak plantation has been quite successful. We had seen during our visit, we had seen a Grandis Timber Limited company which had about nearly 5,000 hectares of teak plantations, and a smaller one, 350 hectares of teak farm. They were set up in 2014, 2018, and both are doing very, very well. And also encouragement to smallholders by distribution of quality seedlings by the government, essentially. And also these companies also provide them teak seedlings, at least in the early years of their existence. Export of timber in log form has been banned to encourage local value addition. But there's lack of financing at reasonable interest, as in agriculture and horticulture sector. In the horticulture agriculture sector, financing is easier to obtain, but that is not available in forestry. And that is because of the uncertain economic returns, frequent market fluctuations of the teak prices, which discourages microfinance of teak plantations or any forestry plantation association. Coming to Vietnam, the teak is a preferred species in agroforestry. And the productivity in Vietnam is reasonably good, from 7 to 16 cubic meter per hectare per year. The economic returns are significantly higher than other species, acacias and eucalyptus. But the major challenge is the longer rotation and lack of high quality planting stock. Many places, the farmers, after planting, they realize that the quality of the teak that they planted is not very high. Most plantations in Vietnam are small in holdings, 2 to 3 hectares. They cannot afford longer rotations because they also require early income. They can't wait for too long. And in this, there is also lack of interim returns. In teak, there is not much that can come unless the shorter rotation, even 3-4 years crop also can give something. In Indonesia, it is doing that. We'll come to Thailand. In Thailand, the national emphasis is on conservation. The national target is 40% forest cover, of which 25% is meant for permanent conservation, and only 15% of this 40% is available for commercial activities. The Forest Plantation Act of 1992 in Thailand enables people to plant trees on both private and government lands. They can plant trees on not only their own land or leased private lands, but also on the government lands. This is something very significant. Ownership is transferable by both sale and inheritance. 2015 amendment in this Act of Forest Plantation Act of 1992 has removed difficulties faced in harvesting and transport, because that is what they were facing earlier. And also provides for certification, because certification is now becoming important for in case you have to tap the high paying markets of EU and North America. Let's now come to the policy support to the smallholders and community plantations. This kind of briefly we'll look into what are the things which are more important and have a little bit of discussion, because time is short, having lost too much time in the initial technical hitchup. Protecting the interest of unorganized and widely dispersed small-scale teak growers. Because smallholders are by their very nature widely dispersed, and they are unorganized. So they need to be taken care of from this angle. New technologies for high quality planting stocks are developing, and good technology is also now available for selecting appropriate sites. But these newer provisions are not accessible to the smallholders. Similarly, new provisions for financing through the international treaties, agreements, they are also not available to the smallholders unless their hand-holding can be done. Also, there are many existing harvest, trade, transport, fiscal policies across the region, across the world actually, but mostly in the colonial countries, the previously colonized countries. The older rules which were brought in by the colonial powers remain there in all these countries, including India. Site quality is very important for the smallholders. Site quality and site management. If they can determine, if they can plant their trees on good sites, they will have good productivity. Smallholders usually rely on the growth parameters alone, only growth. But for financing from the climate and biodiversity agreements, the Green Climate Fund, etc., ecological goals are also becoming important. So this is a compromise which has to be made. And that is where the role of the policy, the government, the forest department comes here. The site management for best results, silviculture practices, irrigation and fertilizer application, soil conservation measures. These things need to be demonstrated to the smallholders. They need to be informed about that. They need to be shown through demonstration. And that can happen by a network of permanent sample plots covering the entire range of growth and management conditions for teak. So, and this is the responsibility of the forest department. So a policy measure that they need to invest in this, mapping the site quality, what are the site qualities are useful, and what site management would be best. The smallholders need to be informed. The high quality planting stock is something which is very obvious, and that is something again only government, the forest department can ensure that high quality planting stock has to be made available at suitable locations and at reasonable prices. And this can be done by local extension offices of the forest department, horticulture department, agriculture department, animal husbandry, and also primary schools could be the delivery points. Planting stock should be priced within reach, but not free. If you have it free, it would lead to wastage. So that price has to be locally ascertained, assessed by the forest department, and then fixed. Then discourage speculative investments. If you recall, in 1980s and 1990s, there was a lot of teak plantations across the tropical world, and almost all of them failed. It is because they were expecting too much profits, 15% investment or return every year. So now, because the cost benefit analysis was conducted was flawed, they did not take into account that the opportunity cost of the land was not taken into account, marketability was not taken into account, but teak wood of all sizes. Large sizes, of course, one can sell easily, but the small sizes poses a problem. And large quantities were the small sizes. So there was no market for that teak which was produced. And also, increase in the prices of the teak was expected, but it did not happen actually. Rigorous cost-benefit analysis by repeated research institutions, which can only be sought by the governments, by the forest departments, not by these dispersed smallholders. That needs to be undertaken, and that they need to be supported for that, which should take into account the opportunity cost, the true opportunity cost of the land, shifting consumer prices, future market scenarios. And the issues with tenure security. And in Thailand, as in India, if the fear is that once you plant it in area with tea, you can't change the land use. So your economic choices become restricted. The sale value of the land will drop. And this is more likely when the land holdings are on steep slopes, ecologically fragile areas, important tourist destinations. And then the expectation is that the landholders will not fell trees. Now, this is very unfair because the landholders, they plant the trees with teak for economic reasons. for enhanced incomes. If ecological and social objectives are added to that, the state must pay. The state must pay. They must compensate the smallholders. Restrictions on transport. This is something which is there across the entire Mekong region, India, and also in the Mekong area. Transport restrictions on timber harvested from private lands to protect theft of timber from government forest. It is a severe disincentive for smallholders. Many states in India have removed this requirement for a species not found in forest. So something is not found in forest. In case you are growing it in your land, you can harvest it without permission from harvest and transport. But now new DNA-based technologies are available, which can enable source identification of the timber. These technologies need to be refined and made available to the forest protection staff. Rather than asking them to give permission, they should rely on these new technologies. And all countries of the Mekong region should work towards removing these transport restrictions. It's still way off. In India also, in some states it has happened. In some states it has not happened. There is still a lot of opposition to it. Now, attracting investments for smallholder teak plantations. There is a lot of risk, multiple risks in tree plantation, which discourages credit financing. Nobody is willing to give loans. The banks are not willing to give loans to the teak plantation, tree plantations, all trees, including teak. And no linkages exist between financial institutions providing credit and prospective teak planters, small teak planters seeking credit. There is no linkage available. These are widely dispersed, quite often not very highly educated. Some American and European pension funds are mandated to invest a part of their funds in green investments. But this is not being taken advantage of by the genuine smallholder teak growers. Not on scale, at least. Investment in teak plantation should be notified as green investment. And the forest department must provide platforms to connect the funds, pension funds, and similar other financial institutions, and those seeking credit for teak group, the small teak groups. So at least the doubts from both the sides can be reduced through the use of this platform. This is a platform that all the departments, forest departments, must create in each of the country and each region, and sometimes in larger districts also. Tax relief is something which has been tried in India with much success. Tree growing is exempted from income tax. Is a major attraction for tree growers and is worth emulating. Tax relief for wood-based industry like sawing industry and consumer and making other consumer product can also be tried. There can be sharp reduction in taxes on the existing industry and a complete tax holiday for 5 years for new industries. In order to ensure that this helps create rural employment, this relief one can think of that to limit the relief to rural areas only, which means that whatever industries are undertaken in rural area, both plantations and also wood-based industry. Examples of this we found in Cambodia as well as in Laos, where these industries are being set up at small scale in remote areas. That is the plus point with these industries. They can be set up in small areas, does not have much pollution footprint, and can create employment in these areas. Then carbon credit, carbon sequestration pathway attracting investment. One can keep talking on that. One has not really seen that on large scale. Earlier CD was there, but not much major success. A few one are there, but they were mostly supported by one institution or the other. They were not something which are growing naturally from in the areas of concern. People were not, it is not as if they were growing up on their own and getting support. Very few. Today, the Red Plus also has not really led to much investments of in teak or any other tree plantations. They are successes, of course, in one or two areas, but large scale success after which one would expect it after 10, 15 years of the Red Plus is not there. The voluntary carbon markets appear to be good in some areas, but there again, if you see the totally hectareage overall, very limited. High transaction costs are a major problem in the expansion of these activities. Very high transaction costs. Perhaps if the transaction costs are owned by the developed countries, then this may be possible to have more carbon projects in this Mekong region here. And then let's come to the marketing short rotation teak timber. You can grow it, but unless you market it, it is of no use. The smallholders will not get the money that they are seeking, enhanced income that they're seeking. So, and they expect income not only at the end, but also from the thinnings, which means that the small size teak timber there should be market for that. In the recent years, there has been improvement in technologies, utilization technologies. There's this chemical treatment of teak with higher sapwood available, which enhances its strength, its durability. And some successes are already there in Indonesia, which has a good small size teak timber market. Now in Vietnam and Laos also a little bit of improvement is there, but prices are still not very attractive. These products need to be promoted in the market, as has been done in Indonesia with some success. But this has to be, the forest departments, governments must step in this area. There have been some efforts by these governments, by ITTO also has been taking certain measures in this direction, and we need to see the success for teak to be promoted by smallholder teak plantations, because that is going to be short rotation timber, teak timber, smaller sizes. They should have a good market in order to earn good income. Another issue which Dr. Maus here now has been talking of that, trade nomenclature for small size teak. The teak of different sizes, if it gets mixed up, then the mixed lots of timber, teak timber which is being sold out in the auctions, they'll fetch the prices which are the lower quality, not the higher quality. So if there are different trade nomenclature for different sizes, not only different sizes, but different qualities also, and these nomenclature must be accepted within the country and beyond the country, then you will get the best prices for the small size teak. So different qualities, different sizes should not get mixed up. It should be possible to separate them, and should be possible to identify them within the country and also outside. Then they will fetch the right prices. So this is something which I think only the ITTU can take up this work, can lead this work, can encourage this work to be taken up. And if that happens, then it would be really good for the smallholder teak planters, because then they will not only get good prices after at the end harvest of, let's say, 18, 20 years, but even in the first thinning and the second thinning and then the final thinning. That is of high importance. Pruning is to maximize the production of straight bole. And pruning young teak up to 50% of the tree total height, up to 50% of the total height is to be done, is best. First pruning when the stand reaches a height of 4 to 5 meters, second at 9 to 10 meters, last pruning at 12 meters. This may appear to be too technical, but this is important because the forest departments, it may appear as not a policy measure, but something which has to come from outside. Forest department or somebody else must ensure that there is larger numbers of smallholders take to pruning, take to thinning, because then they will fetch better, they will get better prices for their product. And when they get better prices for their product, more smallholders will plant teak trees on the lands. So thinning is also important for ensuring high quality. And many small growers remove best quality trees in thinning itself. Now, this is not quite often forest departments do not encourage that. Yes, it need not be encouraged, but sometimes if small growers want that because they want to get as much money now after 4 or 5 years as possible. So they fell the best tree that is available at that time, not the not a not something that a department would recommend to others, but it is also not something that you may like to stop, because the farmer is doing it in his own interest. He wants money now. So his priority is money now, more money now. That's why he's doing that. And this is also something which needs to be encouraged, girdling before harvesting. This is an old practice in Myanmar, not in Tamil Nadu, not in India so much, but in Tamil Nadu, in Myanmar, I have seen that. It makes the trees lose sap and get seasoned, ready for immediate use as timber at the time of harvesting. In a small scale, in this short rotation uh, plantations, if you do it too early, you lose growth. So you can't, you should do it within just about 2 or 3 months before the final harvesting. And if it is done in summers, at the beginning of summer, there will be less growth in summers as it is. So growth is not lost. And the summers will also ensure that this sap will be lost to the tree and the seasoning would be hastened. So the forest department may examine this closely in different localities and advise the smallholders accordingly. Training and teaching the smallholders is a very important task before the forest departments if they want to encourage smallholder teak plantations across their jurisdictions. Certification, there is an increased demand for certification, and it's not something that the smallholders can take up on their own. The smallholders will have to depend upon the government to support them to opt for certification. There's a higher price for a niche market uh, of developed countries, and that market has to be tapped by the smallholders to the extent that is possible. But the cost of complying is also very high. And therefore, the costs, and which are very high, prohibitive cost for the smallholders, this cost has to be borne by somebody. So the governments have to decide whether it is possible for them to support certification within the area for smallholder teak planters. I think it should be possible because the taken at a larger scale, should not be too costly. The forest departments must think of taking up this task of certification on a experimental basis in some areas first, and then it can be taken up in the larger area if it is possible, if they can also raise money from international institutions. I'm sure that this will also be possible for the forest departments to raise money from Green Climate Fund, etc., because this would in turn enhance the carbon sequestration through teak and other plantations. So if certification is encouraged, certification cost is encouraged, that cost is met by Green Climate Fund and such institutions, then this would indirectly lead to higher carbon sequestration and thereby climate change mitigation. So that should be the logic. And IT2 can perhaps help set up an autonomous independent certification agency on the lines of FSC in the Mekong region. Can think of doing that. And this is again something that we should be now seeking funds from the Green Climate Fund, etc. These organizations, they are so far doing it only directly in mitigation and adaptation activities. But this is also something which basically does the same thing indirectly. So it should be possible to convince the Green Climate Fund, or at least bring it in negotiation in the UNFCCC negotiations, annual negotiation processes, that this is something that their financial institutions must look at, the possibility of financing these certification processes. Another thing which is a major concern of the smallholders, illegal felling and theft of their teak. Smallholders can protect their teak plantations, high-value teak plantations, when the teak plantations are close to where they reside. But when they are remote areas, then they will depend upon the state. And the state means the forest department, the government agency dealing with this particular area field. So the smallholders expect a reasonable level of protection of their standing assets as an important duty of the state. How it can be done? Maybe the forest department can identify hotspots of theft and organize villages to combat the problem in these areas. Organizing villages, as has been done in the joint forest management in India and in Nepal. Something similar can also be tried here for controlling theft of private plantations in these areas, which can be supported again in the similar manner. It requires money, but it requires also some source which can prevent that from, which can provide the money, and that money can be utilized for this purpose of preventing the illegal felling and theft of timber from private plantations. Selected villages can also be given legal powers of forest officer. In India, a private person can also be made as a forest guard and given the legal powers of the forest guard. Something similar can also be tried in the other countries of the Mekong region, in these countries of the Mekong region. But this has to be done with great care and under close supervision, because this has the potential of creating conflicts within the village communities. You assign power to somebody else, and others may feel deprived of that power of legal powers of the government. So that is something that one has to be cautious about. Another area of concern for smallholders is reducing losses by fire, by diseases, and by insect attacks. The smallholders are able to control the fire damage, diseases, insect on plantations, which are within their reach, within the agriculture fields. But when their plantations are located far away and closer to the government forest areas, large extent of forest areas, then it is difficult for them to prevent fires from entering their area, their trees, their plantations, or diseases from entering their plantations, and insects from entering their plantations. This is something which the government will have to take responsibility for that. Fires they can prevent by having fire lines. And similarly, the disease also something in the border areas, the forest department must ensure that there is a proper control using chemical measures if it is necessary, of disease control, of insect control in their bordering area, in the forest bordering other plantations. It is the expectation of the smallholders that reducing these losses is the responsibility of the state. And somehow I feel that it is certainly to a degree, it is the responsibility of the state to control at least the transfer of these problems from the government forest to the private plantations. What is the way forward? We suggested it. This is the last 1 or 2 slides now. A few measures have been suggested, but actually every area will have very many problems, and the policies must keep on evolving. Measures that the forest department, the government takes must keep on evolving in order to address these problems, and then once the problems are addressed, to enhance the productivity, to make it more and more better, earn more and more. To earn means for the smallholders to earn more and more. And these policies must be based on hard science, on evidence. And this requires that a major investment in research in these areas has to be a continuous affair. One thing which is often stated, and you can hear that in many of these countries of the region, that the teak plantations have a deleterious effect on productivity of agricultural lands downstream, and even on the quality of the forests below. This needs to be investigated by independent researchers, not by the forest department research institutions alone, but also by the universities outside. The universities in the region should be encouraged by the country governments and also by the ITT to undertake several independent research projects on different sites so that a truer picture may emerge of the ground realities and suggest improvements. Research is also recommended on the biological control of pests and diseases that are common in the region, in the plantation of the region, in order to facilitate large-scale application of these measures by smallholders. Raising mixed plantations instead of pure teak can be tried also. but then this has to be accepted by the smallholders. It reduces the value of their plantations because teak and non-teak, there is a sharp difference in the pricing in the market. Then intensively managed plantations requiring continuous care can provide a lot of employment to the rural economy. This is a public good. Employment, high employment is a public good. And this can be encouraged by appropriate policies like tax relief, for example. Subsidies and tax relief also is something which the country governments, the forest department may have to examine to what extent it is desirable, and then those can be implemented. It has to be seen as a public good. Creation of employment in rural areas is to be seen as public good by itself. And in order to encourage the public good, the state should be willing to spend money or let the money which was coming to it, expected to come to it through tax, can be let go. Or money can also be given through subsidies. The country governments of the Mekong region should, with the help of the bilateral or multilateral international financing agencies, commission universities and research institutions in their countries to undertake studies on socio-economic impact of the smallholder teak plantation. The outcome of these studies can help decide a quantum of compensation or relief, quantum compensation or relief, tax relief, etc., to the smallholder teak planters for the services that these teak planters, smallholder teak planters, render to the society, to the country. So that deserves to be compensated too, in order to encourage them to take up teak planting, indeed any planting, on a large scale, and to attract more and more smallholders in this area. Thank you very much. So, Sandeep, can I? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Kant. Now the forum is open for discussions. You can raise your questions or post your questions in the chat box.
Chat box, okay.
Yeah, Dr. Ma, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Khan, for your very comprehensive information.
Thank you very much.
From the Dr. Brandis, People Brandis. I learned from you so many things. The history of the teak, like the crocodile and whale. I didn't know that French government and British and the Thailand, how they escape in history of the old history. So I think teak history has a long, memory. I think they're very wonderful. So I just like come to you, and I had one just not the question, but just endorsement. You're the way forward. You lay out several recommendations future of the TIC research and development. I think very broad. One, my comment is really I also support your recommendation. I think some of the more the research, some analysis on the side for the smallholder. I like your some definition or the in Mekong region, I think the smallholder, like the definition is very scale is clear, like less than 1 hectare, 2 hectare, below 2 hectare. But I learned somehow the smallholder in West Africa, like Togo, Benin. In the case, they are more than 2 hectares, 3 hectares. So a little bit different, but the Mekong region, somehow the case study is different. So I think your recommendation. Forest department or university need to conduct more the
Yeah.
research of the site and some of the success factor, some of the failing the aspect of the smallholder teak plantation. I think that your point is very clear. Not all of them are successful. I think they are changing the plantation other. Also, even if the small, they could not wait until more than 10 years. I think this is not easy. So I feel more the some study and provide some fact sheet for small teak plantation. So how many hectare? I mean, like the less than 2 hectare, but what is your rotation for smallholder? We understand. I mean, they could not wait more than 10 years. I think maximum 80 years. So I think some fact sheet for fact finding for smallholder teak plantation. I think that within 8 years expectation they can harvest and they can sell. So starting from the this kind of the outcome, like 8 or 10 years, not more than 10 years, but what kind of some the seedling? I think the education technology for high quality, but available, but very high cost. So how to provide some of the seedling or smallholder, they can grow up to I think not more than 8 years. I learned also West Java, Indonesia. They had very successful new the clone. They can also farmer they can enjoy and they can plant 8 years and then they harvest. They go to the take the furniture. So I think this is quite some kind of the feasible idea for success story of the smallholder. So but not much in the India, also Myanmar, Thailand. I think some are good effort, but not much success stories. So I hope in order to get more the review the existing policy and get more the recommendation. I encourage very much your one of recommendation. I mean the forest department and university conduct some more research on the success and the failure of the smaller teak plantation. I really grateful with your presentation, and I like also maybe I like also one my recommendation the Teaknet. Wonderful to organize this. I just got the information for maybe 1 hour ago, so I just so Teaknet. I like encourage some our colleague Teaknet. Perhaps the World Teak Congress in Kerala in September. Please invite Dr. Kant to share his insight to the global society regarding this the history and his recommendation. I think it will be very, very helpful to, particularly the smallholder. We seen the potential of the supplying from smallholder. We need to promote smallholder more intensive way as we understand the big development of the like the medium, large, the supply of the teak product. They are very good. I think I learned from so many good stories. But smallholder, we need more good success story. So I hope the Teaknet congratulate for organizing this event. And I encourage also Teaknet to invite Dr. Khan to Kerala during the Teak Congress to share his insight, which present today. Thank you so much once again, Dr. Khan. I just compliment and also my deep congratulate Teaknet for technical problem, but you organize very well. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Ma. Yes, I fully agree with your suggestion that this requires major efforts by the forest departments as the leading agencies of the concerns, all the countries, and working with the universities there, under the overall guidance support of the ITTO. because that international support is very, very, very helpful in organizing things. Sometimes money is not needed, sometimes just a push is needed, just a suggestion is needed, just a platform is needed, that much alone. Sometimes, of course, money will also come. And the words of working with the ITTO also makes it possible to reach to the Green Climate Fund and other funding agencies, that the projects or the proposals become much more acceptable, or at least the feeling is that this has been examined properly. It is something which is required for this area, for this region, for this field, and that way it is very supportive. So the ITTO, the universities, and the forest department, the forest departments of the countries, they must work together to push these areas, to push these smallholder teak planters and other similar things forward. Thank you.
Dr. Kant, one doubt from my side. This smallholder teak that is produced in the Mekong region,
Yeah.
basically it caters to the domestic market.
Yeah.
Yeah. With respect to the price that the producer gets or the farmer gets, actually is very low, 50% of what is the actual market value.
Yeah.
Can we suggest some strategies by which the producer gets the maximum amount that is somewhat equivalent to that market price available in that particular area?
Yeah. I think the answer to this lies in the use of the new technology which are developing. The short rotation timber, short rotation teak, essentially, which is produced by the smallholders, correctly, as you said, noticed that has a local market. But this market can also become larger if the strength of this small timber, the strength and the finish can be taken care of. The strength and finish can often be taken care of now by the new technology which is developed for treating, the chemical treatment which is available. 8 years old teak, which mostly it's sap only, but that also is now usable in good quality, as a good quality timber. I mean, in wood products which require good quality timber, they can be used there also. So if not directly as a sawn timber, it can go as a product, as a furniture used. It can find a market outside. And if you find markets outside in developed countries, in countries which can pay more, the citizens of which can pay more, for example, EU, Japan, and also North America. And also increasingly now, even in India also, it is possible to get better prices than they are getting today. So use of new technologies is the key, I think.
If there are no more questions, I think we can wind up the session. The webinar will be available in our YouTube channel. And after the webinars, we usually get a lot of questions from the regions from where they have not been able to attend the webinar, and we usually transfer it directly to the resource person who had delivered the lecture. So thank you, Dr. Kant, for giving a very insightful speech on the history and the different policy aspects and how to support the smallholder teak plantations in the region. Thank you for your wonderful speech. And thank you for all the participants who had come over here and supported us. So thank you all.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
Dr. Khan and Teaknet.
Thank you.
Thank you.